June 16th, 2020. You have this order right? We'll do Pledge of Allegiance next?
Yes.
That's right. COVID mind meld, whatever. Pledge of Allegiance, Brad.
Good day, explorers! Broadcast Cal here with the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone stand up and say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Nice job, everyone! Now get out there and explore, discover, and create. Broadcast Cal, out!
My hair was never that straight.
Hey, Brad, you're muted.
Again, or we'll just do it normal?
Brad, we didn't get any audio. No.
Nope.
Give one more try. It's cute.
Yeah.
It's all Tim's fault. Your fingers are moving mighty fast over there.
Good day, explorers! Broadcast Cal here with the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone stand up and say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Nice job, everyone! Now get out there and explore, discover, and create. Broadcast Cal, out!
Awesome. Thanks, Brad.
Awesome.
Roll call, Sylvia.
Mayor Mays,
Here.
Council President Rosner,
Here?
Councilor Browse,
Here.
Councilor Garland,
Here.
Councilor Young,
Here.
Councilor Griffin,
Here.
and Councilor Scott.
I'm present.
Thank you.
Municipal services in order to qualify the city to receive state revenues. Item D is Resolution 2020-034, authorizing the city manager to extend the current intergovernmental agreement by 1 year with Metro for the Solid Waste Community Enhancement Program. Item E is Resolution 2020-035, authorizing the city manager to execute a construction contract for the Sunset Pine Intersection Improvements Project. Item F is Resolution 2020-036, authorizing the city manager to sign an amendment to existing intergovernmental agreement with Washington County for the Community Development Block Grant Program.
I move consent.
Second.
Discussion on the motion? All in favor of approving the consent as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Council. Citizen comments. With this Microsoft Teams approach, comments are given in advance and will be read by Sylvia, I believe, right?
Correct. Yep. So, Mayor and Council, I do have a few items this evening. The first item reads, Dear Sherwood City Council, in regards to the proposed restrictions on flag, feathered teardrop signs, we ask that reconsider, I'm assuming the word you belongs in there, your position to further restrict this signage. Many small businesses such as ours are fighting to recover from the economic effects of COVID-19. With an already limited pre-COVID-19 advertising budget, this type of signage is one of the most affordable ways for small businesses to let potential customers know where they are located and get customers in the door. As we are recovering from the shutdown, we are not able to afford new advertising at this time. We must rely on existing signage to bring in customers and increase revenue. While we understand the need for restrictions concerning the signs, we ask that you reconsider further limiting them at this time. Allow for small businesses to recover from the effects of COVID-19, then address this at a later date. Thank you for your time and consideration. Submitted by Dirk Allen with Empire Athletics, Sherwood. The other item, Mayor and Council, the Council received via email this afternoon and consulting with the City Attorney that those written comments were submitted anonymous and did not comply with Council Rules, Section Chapter 2, Section BD5, which states that citizen comments submitted, speakers shall identify themselves by their names and by their city of residence. As those comments were submitted anonymously, they do not comply with those sections of the Council Rules, and City Attorney Soper is available if you have any questions.
Thanks, Sylvia. Was that the only two?
Correct.
Next is presentations, recognition of Sherwood High School students, high school students in the arts and athletics. So each year we try to recognize outstanding youth in our community, and we do it in the arts and athletics category as well as academics. And tonight we'll talk about a few outstanding high school students in the arts and athletics. In the athletics category, we want to, and for each of these folks, we will be giving them a certificate of appreciation to acknowledge this achievement from the city. In the athletics category, girls soccer first team All-State, Loma McNeasy. Football first team All-State, Brian Cuthbertson. Boys swimming first team All-State, Jacob Folsom, who was first in state for the 200-yard freestyle at a time of 1:39.86. Boys basketball first team All-State, Jameson Guerrera. Dance All-State team, Sydney Triana. Unfortunately, no spring sports due to the COVID pandemic. In the arts category, 5 works of writing and 5 works of art from each region are selected by local judges as American Voices and Visions nominees. Of the 5 selected statewide, Sherwood had 2 this year, Anna Dummer and Grace Gary. Congratulations, Anna and Grace. National Art Awards category. Artists that qualify for the Regional Gold Key Award, which is the best works submitted to local programs, are judged nationally to receive national medals. The following Sherwood students received National Silver Key Awards: Katie Felix, Shannon Jackson, and Natalie Pastores. Great job, Katie, Shannon, and Natalie. Band, the state contest for solo and ensemble was canceled due to COVID pandemic, unfortunately. Congratulations to all Sherwood students. We will mail you your certificates in the next few days. Great job, everybody. I'm sorry we can't do it live and show you on camera and embarrass you in front of your folks, but wonderful achievements. Next, under new business, we have one item, Resolution 2020-037, adopting the Capital Improvement Plan, the CIP, for fiscal year 2020 to 21. Julia?
Sorry, I turned my camera on, but I forgot to turn my microphone on. This is, as usual, kind of a tag team effort. I'm leading this presentation, but finance is part of this, as well as Public Works, if there's any questions about Public Works related projects. As a reminder, this is the capital improvement program that is in your packet is the full everything in a master plan, as well as projects that council has identified at various times. The one-year CIP is the projects that we're actually funding next year in the budget, assuming it's approved by council. And then the 5-year is sort of the, we're targeting to spend those in the 5 years if funds are available. And we've tried to identify projects that we think are likely to be fundable. And so really what you're doing with this resolution is the plan as we've discussed it and modified it over this past year and based on council goals. And we ask that you approve the resolution. Are there any questions?
Questions of Julia or a motion from council?
I move resolution 2020-037, adopting the capital improvement plan CIP for fiscal year 2020-21.
Second.
Thank you, Julia. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to adopt or to pass resolution 2020-037, adopting the capital improvement plan for 2020-2021, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, council. Thank you, Julia. Now on to public hearings. We have 3 items under public hearings.
Mayor and council, I do have a short statement to read just for the record, and also to advise that the city has not and did not receive any written comments for any of these items listed tonight. Okay. But either way, I'll read the statement. The Sherwood City Council will hold public hearing this evening to hear testimony on 3 items on the agenda. Resolution 2020-038, adopting a schedule of fees as authorized by the City Zoning and Community Development Code, establishing fees for miscellaneous city services, and establishing an effective date. Item B, Resolution 2020-039, declaring the city's election to receive state shared revenues. Item C, Resolution 2020-040, adopting the fiscal year 2020-21 budget of the City of Sherwood, making appropriations, imposing and categorizing taxes, and authorizing the city manager to take such action necessary to carry out the adopted budget. Again, Mayor and Council, I will not read the remainder of the statement as it pertains to submitting written comments, limiting comments to 4 minutes. At this time, the city has not received any written comments for any of these items.
Thank you, Sylvia. So, David, item A.
Yeah, so the first item I'll be covering is adopting a schedule of fees. So during the budget process every year, finance reaches out to various departments, department heads, supervisors, just to have them annually review all the fees that they charge for various categories. The proposed fees, they fall into 4 categories. Whether it's a 2% increase as previously approved in Resolution 2017-008, 2% increase for certain building fees, a 4.37% increase as previously approved in Resolution 2018-049 for SDC and TDT fees. And then there's some miscellaneous other new fees that you might have noticed in your packet and minor changes. And just to highlight some of those, In section 1 of general charges for services, the public records fees, we just did a little verbiage update to differentiate between staff fully loaded rates and consultant and contractor costs. In section 2, library fines and fees, just under general fees, this adds an additional fee for 3D printing, which is a new service to be provided. Section 5, for Parks and Recreation under Community Garden, this adds an additional fee section to disclose the cost of community garden plots. And for the Stewart Center fees, rental fee increases reflects new ability to divide a dining room into separate classrooms for individual rental based on usage and price of large classroom rental. Under section 6, utility rates, this is for under account activation and deactivation. We're just changing the verbiage here to include all new applications for services and prior customers sent to collections. It also increases the deposit to reflect an average 1-month bill. In section 7, under SDCs, the storm SDCs, it just corrects the fees to reflect the amount set by Clean Water Services. And then you'll notice Appendix A, these are fees charged on behalf of other agencies. The Sherwood School District, this increases the fee charge on all building permits per the school district leadership. So with that, I will open it up for, since we didn't receive any public testimony on this, open it up to council with any questions that you might have of myself or of other senior leadership that is on here tonight.
Thanks, David. This is Tim Rosner. If I could ask a quick question. Does the fee schedule allow for whoever's managing that particular facility or even Joe, like for instance, if you have a time period that traditionally you can't get it rented, does it allow them to offer discounts to encourage people to use those time frames, or is it fairly rigid?
I'm fairly certain the city manager can interject and override to lower.
Yeah, I think we specifically call that out for the Art Center because we want to run that more as a business, and occasionally things do come up that I have some discussion on, but it doesn't necessarily call out every fee.
But we have that flexibility so you can maximize utilization. Yes. Perfect. Thank you.
I think that's important for the senior center when we reopen as well. So any of our facilities that we're trying to get to operate either in the block or close to the block, we want that flexibility and to be able to run it as a business.
Yep.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, David.
Great question. Other questions or comments?
I had a quick question. Yeah. On page 318 of our packet, under account activation and deactivation, in blue, it says, this is for water service, deposit for a new application of service for all tenant accounts and previous customers sent to collections, 125. So that's in blue. So that was a change from last year. What's the change?
Craig, do you want to jump in and answer that?
That's so when new applicants come in to apply, we can charge an application fee, because what ends up happening is a renter is renting and they take off and we don't get collected any money. So we have an application fee at the beginning. We haven't always charged it, but we have been getting hit within the last couple of years more than what we were.
So kind of like a deposit.
Pretty much as a deposit. And then what ends up happening is it goes back on the homeowner, and the homeowner gets mad that they have to pay it. So that's what this application fee is.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
It's been in the past. We just haven't really used it because we hadn't had to.
So I guess it's in blue, which means it was a change from last year. So did we increase it?
It probably went up with a 2% increase, as well as it might have not have been in last year's, but we've had it in the fee schedules in the past.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like the prior charge was 100. Now we're moving up to 125.
Okay.
And Craig, could you confirm for folks listening, the program you set up to offset or I don't know the proper term here, but we set up a program for COVID relief for our utility bills. So folks that are in that program wouldn't get charged that fees once they're caught up, correct?
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions? Comments or a motion?
I'll make a motion. Approving Resolution 2020-038, adopting a schedule of fees as authorized by the City Zoning and Community Development Code, establishing fees for miscellaneous city services, and establishing an effective date.
Second.
Moved in second. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all in favor of approving Resolution 2020-038, say aye.
Aye.
Say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you, Council. Thank you, David. Item B is also David. Resolution 2020-039, declaring the city's election to receive state shared revenues.
Yeah, so per state law, we're required to hold 2 public hearings in regards to this resolution and in order to obtain and receive state shared revenues. The first one was held on May 28th during the final budget, what ended up being the final budget committee meeting. You know, the state shared revenue the city received is per capita based on Sherwood's population of 19,595 residents, and that is as of December 15th, 2019. And the revenue falls into the intergovernmental revenue of the general fund, and the other revenue received is for our street operations, and that also falls into intergovernmental revenues of that fund. And as approved by the budget committee, the city intends to use the funds from the state shared revenue for general services in both the general fund and the street operations fund. So with that, I will open it up to any questions you may have of me or staff.
Any questions? Folks always find it's kind of quirky that we actually have to have 2 public hearings and then vote every year to say, yes, we want our shared revenue. But it's state law, one of those quirky laws. Because if you miss out, you don't get it, and it gets distributed to other folks. So, jokingly, the best thing that could happen is a big city misses the boat and we get to divvy up their pie. But
How often does that happen?
it doesn't happen.
It doesn't.
I'm guessing an exception would be made too.
Right?
I would make a motion to approve Resolution 2020-039, declaring the city's election to receive state shared revenue.
Second.
Discussion on the motion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor of approving Resolution 2020-039, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Council. Thank you, David. Item C is the last public hearing, Resolution 2020-040, adopting the fiscal year 2020 to 2021 budget for the city of Sherwood, making appropriations, imposing and categorizing taxes, and authorizing the city manager to take such action necessary to carry out the adopted budget. David.
As I stated earlier, the budget committee, they wrapped up their meetings in 2 out of the 3 meetings we had scheduled, and that their final meeting was on May 28, 2020. And the budget basically is now ready to be voted on by council and formally adopted. And this is the final opportunity for citizens to provide public comment on the budget prior to this adoption. But as Sylvia has already stated, we have not received any public comment on the city's budget. So with that, before I turn it over to council, I just want to thank the budget committee for all their work this year. It was a very challenging and trying year with this whole COVID-19. And I just want to thank my finance staff for all their work on the budget. And so with that, I'm open up to any questions that you folks may have of myself about the budget or staff.
Thanks, David. Yes, kudos to city staff for working and putting this together with the pandemic going on, and a big shout out certainly to our all members of our budget committee. There are 14 members, 7 from council and 7 from the community. The proposed budget that was recommended to City Council today was unanimously recommended by the entire budget committee, which was great. Any questions of David since that meeting? Anybody has? Discussion or motion?
Well, I guess I could make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2020-040, adopting the fiscal year 2020-21 budget of the City of Sherwood, making appropriations, imposing and categorizing taxes, and authorizing the city manager to take such action necessary to carry out the adopted budget.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Discussion on the motion? All in favor of approving Resolution 2020-0, the motion to approve Resolution 2020-040, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Council. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Moving on to City Manager report.
Mayor and Council, the only item I want to touch upon is kind of where we are with Phase 2 here in Washington County. I know numbers in the county and around the state are creeping up in terms of confirmed cases, which has caused a short pause, as Governor Brown has called it. The latest that we have heard from Washington County is tomorrow they will make a decision whether or not to apply for Phase 2. If the numbers look solid, they will go ahead and apply. They were originally going to apply on Monday, but they've delayed it a couple days. In addition to applying tomorrow, if they choose to do that, they also said they would request June 22nd, which is Monday, for Washington County to go to Phase 2. It's a little unclear how the governor's going to respond to new applications and whether she's going to look at them differently or whether she'll approve them. So we're kind of waiting, obviously, to find out what will happen in the next probably 5 to 7 days. The biggest impact, I think, that we're hearing from citizens are amenities in our parks. So there's a lot of interest for our playgrounds to reopen. If we go to Phase 2, playgrounds will be allowed to reopen. And we are taking steps to prepare for that with new signage and other things to let the public know that you still need to practice safe practices, but we'll be ready to go when we go to Phase 2 with playgrounds. And then the other area of great interest is our 2 sports fields, the baseball field and the soccer field up at Snyder Park. I think the community would love to see, or a good chunk of the community would love to see those amenities reopen. So when we go to Phase 2, which could be as soon as next Monday, those type of facilities will reopen. Again, with new precautions and new signage and things like that. So I think that will be the biggest change, at least immediately, in terms of city facilities and programs when we go to Phase 2 next week. So I'm happy to answer any questions council might have on any COVID-related questions.
I have a question not COVID-related. So Joe, in light of everything that's going on right now in our country and the protests and whatnot, there's been a lot of community interest in our own police department. And we got, quite a lengthy letter today from a citizen asking some pretty good questions to the chief. Can you just tell us and the citizens that are watching what your plans are for helping to educate council and our citizens on what our PD already does? Is there any changes that might need to be made? And things like that.
Yes, and Chief Baroth is on the phone. He's out of town and he can certainly chime in, but he and I have been talking about how to really have a conversation with council, because I think as elected officials, you guys get questions and may want to understand about our policies and procedures and how do we use what dictates use of force, and how often does the police department use force in our jurisdiction? So you have lots of questions, but more importantly, the public does. So Chief and I have been talking about doing a work session, kind of an extended work session with the council. We're looking at some possible dates later this month, basically to cover a number of areas, just to kind of re-educate or educate the council, but very much broadcast that to the public and make sure the public knows that that conversations is taking place. A lot of other cities in Washington County are doing that, having work sessions to kind of go through those. And I think it's a very important discussion with what's going on in the country. And we are starting to get more questions from citizens about how do we operate here in Sherwood. So that was our plan. I hope that answers your basic question. Chief Groth, do you have anything more to add?
Thanks, Joe. Hopefully everybody can hear me.
Yep.
Good. So I don't have a bunch to add. Well, let me rephrase that. I do have a lot to add. I don't want to necessarily take up a bunch of time right now. I'm obviously, I think, as all of you know, very passionate about professionalism in policing, and very proud of the job that our women and men have done in Sherwood. And we are, as Joe said, working to put this work session together and talk about some topics that I think will answer a lot of different questions and give you all an opportunity to ask questions. So.
Awesome.
Great. Thanks, Chief.
Other questions for myself or my team that's on the call?
Hey, Joe, Keith, the looks like a great first week of businesses doing creative things in Old Town. Good crowds, more businesses opening this week. Have you received any inquiries from restaurants or landlords outside the Old Town core?
Unfortunately not. I think Bruce Coleman, our economic development manager, and I are talking about kind of reaching out and reminding them that if they want to do more outdoor seating in their parking lots, that's certainly an option. Most of the efforts have been in Old Town and in our right-of-way. A number of businesses already have outdoor patios, so we're talking about doing some marketing for restaurants that have outdoor space, because everything we have heard is it's much safer to eat outside and be out in the outdoors, and I know that would help restaurants kind of get back on their feet. So I think we're going to do some marketing for everybody and remind them that they can do more things, but we haven't heard anything directly. But so far, the response that we've heard from the community about opening up, especially in Old Town, has been very positive. And I know Fat Milo's, I believe, starts tomorrow, is going to start with dine-in for the first time in quite some time. So we hope they have a good start to reopening their business. So.
Excellent. Other questions for Joe? All right. Council announcements. Who'd like to lead it off?
I'm good. I don't have anything.
I have a couple of very quick Planning Commission updates. There was 2 public hearings held by Planning Commission last week on Tuesday. The first one was the land use review, which included a conditional use permit, a variance, and a subdivision for the Tualatin Sherwood Corporate Center over on 124th and Tualatin Sherwood Road. So the project ultimately will construct 5 industrial buildings of more than 500,000 total square feet. So that application was approved by the Planning Commission and presumably will start development very soon. So that's exciting news for for our industrial development here in town, employment and development here in town. Secondly, as referred to the Planning Commission by council, they took up the public hearing on the allowing hotels in industrial use, industrial zoned areas with provisions, and those were forwarded to the council with a recommendation to approve. So we will be seeing those on a future agenda, I'm sure. There is no Planning Commission public meeting this coming week, a week from today, but there is a joint work session between the Parks and Rec Board and the Planning Commission at 6:30 next Tuesday. It will be available, it will be streamed, audio only streamed on YouTube at 6:30 next Tuesday. And the subject of that is an update on the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. So if anyone interested in that should definitely tune in. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
I have a couple things.
Hi, Renee.
Okay, so besides the fact that today is my 30th anniversary,
Hey.
hey, just a couple updates. So the Senior Advisory Committee met on last Wednesday, and the meal delivery system is still going on. They're finally back to the pre-COVID normal numbers of meals, but over the COVID situation, 1,623 meals were delivered. So pretty big numbers. Pretty impressive. The library, we haven't met, but a couple of updates there. Curbside pickup began by appointment on Wednesday, June 10th. Holds will be offered for books and other materials at the end of June. Computer appointments will begin soon. There's a big need for computer use. And then I was asked to read this statement for the library. Library staff stand with American Library Association and the Black Caucus of the American Library Association against the systemic social injustices endured by Black people and people of color. We take our role in the community seriously as selectors of what books are available to read, what activities are open to all, what ideas get amplified, and what voices are heard. See sherwoodoregon.gov/library to read about the ways we are working to operationalize equity of Sherwood Public Library. We believe the work of diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility is the work of everyone. This work is ever evolving and never done. We continue to stretch, grow, and set new goals. Other than that, my only other announcement is that I was appointed to the Housing Advisory Committee for Washington County and begin that role next Thursday, and excited to be a part of the conversation.
Congratulations. Thanks, Renee.
This is Sean. I'll jump in with just a couple quick ones. Cultural Arts Commission met last night, and they are working on some planning for trying to put together a kind of a summer project, art project, community project. So they're kind of brainstorming some ideas to figure out something that can be done for our community, keeping in mind social distancing and the current situation. So they're kicking around some ideas and hopefully going to try and get something launched soon. The only other thing I have to say is happy birthday to my lovely wife tomorrow. Happy birthday. That's it.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean. Russell?
Let's see. So we did have a Parks and Rec Board meeting this month because we're having our joint meeting with the Planning Commission next week. And I did hear back from Kristen, so I'm assuming we're going to have a virtual July meeting as we get to the end. Yeah, Joe's shaking his head as we get to the end of that process of reviewing the master plan for the parks. And that's it. No Robin Hood Festival this summer, and no cruise in, no. Going to be a quiet summer of eating out in the street. That's what it's going to be. I expect to see Councillor Young out on the street with the big beer stein in her hand, eating some fish and chips or something. So,
why just Councillor Young?
Well, I don't know. Okay,
I like your beer stein.
And all the beer I drink.
Well, I know. That's what causes.
Who knows what's in the beer stein?
Hair to go curly.
Clearly, you've got a nice beer stein, according to Russell.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Russell. Tim?
I don't really have a lot. As Russell stated, there's not a lot going on right now with the COVID situation. We did the final ballots for the LOC, got sent to the city managers, I believe late last week. And as a reminder to everybody, the League of Oregon Cities lobbies on behalf of cities at the state level, and they're gearing up for the long session, which is going to start in January of next year. And all the cities basically vote on what we want our priorities to be in terms of what the LOC is doing for us in the capital. And that ballot has got sent to the city manager. And Joe, I'm sure you'll be scheduling a work session so we can go over that ballot so we can officially vote on it.
Yep, I sent the packet out, I believe on Monday, and we are going to have a work session so we can work through it, and then we get to pick our top 4 as a council, and then we have till August 7th to get the information to the league. So that'll be an item probably on your July 7th agenda.
Yeah, and thank you for that, Joe. And just, for everybody listening out there, generally when we hear the word lobbyist, we don't like that term, but the League of Oregon Cities really does an amazing job for all the cities in the state representing us in Salem, because there's a lot of lobbyists out there with a lot of money that get the ear of Salem quite a bit. So they do important work for us to make sure our rights at the city level are protected in the state.
Thanks, Tim. Very well said about the League of Oregon Cities. This horrible pandemic they're all going through has been a bit of a renaissance for the league in its level of involvement, League of Oregon Cities level of involvement, almost day to day, certainly week to week, with cities all across Oregon, with all these regular virtual meetings, and the expanded and much stronger relationship with Governor Brown and her staff and the state legislature. So that's been very exciting to see. We had a League of Oregon Cities board meeting last Friday to go over a lot of different things. And I think there's going to be some news from the governor tomorrow that cities and counties around Oregon will be happy about. What else? On Monday, I virtually attended our Washington County Coordinating Committee meeting. The city had submitted for a grant from Washington County to be the local match for a grant application we submitted to the feds for the design engineering of our Tonkin Employment Road that we want to build. So we were granted the local match from the county funds, MISTIP funds, roughly $175,000. The total project, if we get the grant, is in the neighborhood of $900,000. I don't have exact numbers in front of me. As council knows, but the community might not know, this is a EDA grant, right, Joe?
It's an EDA grant, but it's out of the CARES fund.
Right. And there is no application deadline. You just apply, they review it, and then you get a yes or no in short order. So it's an unusual thing, but a rapid deployment grant, and they want to get the money out the door quick. And so this is the first of potentially several applications we'll be submitting and hopefully getting successful responses. So great job to Joe and Julia and your team for putting that together with our lobbyists to submit for the federal application and to get the local match from someone else's money. Doesn't get any better than that. The local match is county money for a federal grant. So kudos.
Yes. Mayor, just to piggyback, I didn't have anything really to do except knowing that staff was putting that together and supportive, but Bruce and Julia really carried a lot of that weight, and our team in CFM, team in DC have been very helpful. They're not just lobbyists, they help us actually submit the application, put the grant together. They do a lot of heavy lifting, and we feel somewhat confident because we're probably one of the first applications that they've received on the West Coast. So hopefully being early will help us get a positive result. So, and it's a relatively small amount of money compared to probably what they're seeing from other jurisdictions. being less than $1 million.
Yeah.
So
And if I could just pile on for a second on that, I just a lot of kudos to staff on this, Julie and her team, because a lot of times when these grant opportunities come up, there's small windows to get your application in, and if you haven't been preparing for a long time and have the information and the data so that when these opportunities come up, you can respond quickly, you won't get these grants. So kudos to the whole team for putting us in a position where we can even apply.
Yeah, here. It is the same construction design, not construction, design engineering money we were looking for from Metro, but we were not successful with the Metro because we did not score well on their scoring model. So staff did not give up. They kept chasing and saw an opportunity, and they're still chasing on it. So that's outstanding. Kudos to our community. A couple weeks ago, a young man, and I drawn a blank on all the names, but organized a march in support of minorities and Black Lives Matter movement, and had a peaceful walk from Stella Olson to Cannery Square. Had lots of people there, 600, 700, 800, very peaceful. Folks were able to talk. Sean was eloquent and spoke, in support of treating everyone fairly and equally, and reflecting on what friends and neighbors and folks we don't know, how they view life, and make sure that we understand it and help them like we would want to be helped. So kudos to our community for doing that in a peaceful and organized way. It was great to see. And tons of high school and middle school students. They dominated those that spoke. And I'm glad there was at least one school board member there to kind of hear what they had to say and some experiences that they've had, and work we can do in our own community. Lastly, I want to news came out this evening. The mayor of Gresham, Shane Bemis, announced his resignation. Shane, effective tomorrow. Shane was first elected on the city council in 2002. He quickly he served, and then was not just a few years after that was elected mayor. He was one of the longest serving mayors in the Portland metro area. Has numerous leadership roles in the region and the state, and currently chairs the Metro Mayors Consortium. No, he did that last year. Someone else just took over, I believe. It's a bit of a blur with this pandemic. But he has done an outstanding job for his city, but he is also a small business owner. He owns a restaurant in Gresham, and he needs to spend time helping to keep his restaurant alive to survive this. So it's a great loss for Gresham. It's a great loss for the Portland metro area and the state. And hopefully he'll just take a break, get his business up and running and thriving again, and then be able to serve again in a different capacity potentially. But I've known Shane for 18 years, and was very sad to see that he will be stepping down in the morning. I think that's all I got. We are going to
URA next.
Adjourn the city council meeting in a second, and then we will do a new Microsoft Teams YouTube meeting for the URA Board of Directors meeting. So we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.